You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley alongside Jake Mastroianni after what was another eventful night of baseball for the Atlanta Braves up in Minnesota, where they have secured a series victory. This one, perhaps a little bit more hard fought than game one, but a win is a win. You'll take all of them you can get, and every series at this point is a must win for this club, and that's exactly what they took care of with their victory on Tuesday night in 10 innings, 8-6 the final score. We have a lot to unpack in this game. Before we get started on that, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube, and Locked On Braves, wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started with that. Well, Jake, the Braves got started in a very good fashion in this game, much like they did in game one. Not quite as plentiful with the runs, but a pretty good lead was built up. The Minnesota Twins, though, they just kept grinding throughout this entire night. They worked over Spencer Schwellenbach about as well as I've seen any lineup work him over. They got into the Braves bullpen, were able to make some things happen, eventually tying things up, forcing it to extras, but did they not know that the Braves saved their best for extra innings in 2024? Because this season is completely and totally weird and inexplicable in so many ways.
Just can't explain it. And that Manfred runner, that was something the Braves really struggled with when it first came about. But they have certainly turned things around there. Could have done without it. But, you know, as you said, gave us some entertainment there and a little bit more to talk about, because this almost turned into a long list of really bad losses that the Braves have had this year. But it wasn't. They got the win, and they get another series win, their 5th in a row.
Yeah, we don't have to add this to the misery index, which I certainly appreciate, because goodness knows we have done a lot of shows. I know you have done a lot of podcasts. I have done a lot of other shows and calls where you just try to explain how things go the way that they have gone for this club at times this year. And there was a twinge of that in the middle and late innings as the Minnesota Twins rallied to tie things up and push it into extras. But this is a Braves club that, for whatever reason, has figured out this extra innings thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on as we go along. But this felt like two different games as well, because you had the first one where the Braves had their nice lead. They were pitching that shutout. Spencer Schwellenbach, though, I don't really know what it was, about the Twins in particular. He continues to attack the strike zone as he always does. Did start to, I think, tire out at the end. Really wanted to finish off that 5th inning. We can unpack his entire start, but I feel like among the things that probably didn't have the Braves in the best sorts was not having a starter be able to get through 5, but the bullpen in general had some pains in this one, the likes of which we haven't seen too terribly often.
Yeah, and a night after, Max Fried had to come back and battle just to get through 5, and good thing he did that now after what happened tonight. That becomes really huge for this one. But yeah, Schwellenbach he looked like he really was having to work, and Twins fouled off 27 pitches tonight. Yeah. That is an extremely high number of foul balls, and a credit to that Twins offense in these first 2 games. Look, yesterday they were getting blown out, and they came back and made it somewhat of a game late. They didn't give up, and they continued to fight. And in this one too, they continued to fight and put up good at bats, but they really worked Schwellenbach over. Just were not able to, or he was not able to put them away quick enough. Got a lot of strikeouts, which also drives up that pitch count, but just all those foul balls, some really good takes. They weren't really chasing a lot. So I thought it was just a really good approach by this Twins lineup, and a good job by Schwellenbach to have all those base runners and still be able to get out of that and make some good pitches when he need to, dialing him back to upper 90s to get out of a jam there late in that game. So I thought it was really good on him, but just had to throw a lot of pitches, had to work really hard.
Yeah, he did. And I noticed that radar gun light up a few times, and we can talk about his start a little bit more later on, because we have a lot to get into just in this first segment to even set the scene for what was that eventual 8-6 win for the Braves. Michael Harris got the scoring started with a 2-run homer. That came in the 2nd inning. That's no small story here. Obviously, he came in and played defensively in the opener against Minnesota, but, what was it, 36 or so hours ago, we were a bit wary of what was going to be going on with Michael Harris. I mean, was he going to miss significant time? How much time was he going to miss once he seemed to clear the hurdle of not having a fractured hand or wrist? And now all of a sudden he's managed to get in there and basically not miss a beat. His 2-run homer got things going. And that was something that the Braves very much would like to not have to go through is losing another key contributor for any length of time, especially one that would end up with another IL stint for a player who's already lost significant time to the IL this year.
And batting him down in the order, kind of what I've been asking for. Look, I know he can be good wherever you need to put him and play him, and kind of out of necessity, you've had to move him up. But you bat him sixth in this one. He goes off, gets the home run early on, has another ball that he hits later off the wall. Had the two hardest hit balls of this game by far, 114 and 109. So just crushing the baseball. Marcel also had one at 109 in this one. But just good to see from Michael Harris. First of all, like you said, just that he is healthy, but also seeing him, a little bit down in the order where I think it takes a little bit of that pressure off of him at the top, and he can just kind of relax and be the great hitter that we know he can be. So I love seeing that, a big game from him. Again, if you can get him going in that spot of the order where it's been kind of this station to station hitter in the middle of this lineup, you plug him in there, a guy that can hit for average, can get on base, and has some speed as well. I think that gives you a little bit more dynamic to the middle of that order. But just good, as you said, to have him healthy, have him back out there. And it's so great to watch him in center field. I mean, there are balls hit, and I say, oh, that's center. Michael's going to catch that. And that's nothing against Kelenic, anybody else that's been playing center out there. It's just different when Michael Harris is out there. He glides to these balls and gets to them so easy. There's no worry when a ball's hit to center field.
Yeah, no, it's just one of the many things that he does so well. And I think that had things gone the way that the Braves had planned, obviously, which, what in the world at this point has gone the way that they planned. But if Austin Riley were still in there, I think that Michael Harris would have been hanging out in that 5, 6, 7 range, whatever the case may be, depending on if there's a tough lefty, I guess, on the mound, but probably in the 5 or 6 range. And maybe that's the place for him right now. If he was red hot, I think they would have left him at the top of the order, but they wanted to try Whit Merrifield, which, baseball is a weird game because one night you have 5 hits. The next night you can't buy a hit and you go 0 for 5. Although his last at bat, his last trip up there, he had a little flare into right field where the veteran Carlos Santana decided that he wanted to show off his wheels and make a diving catch. So I think for Merrifield, he had to be feeling like at that point, it's just one of those nights. Atlanta added on 2 more runs in the 5th, 2-run single by who else but Marcell Ozuna, who continues his assault on the Major League's leading RBI total. He is up to 98 on the year now. It's been an incredible year for him. It continued with those 2 runs knocked in, and you felt pretty good about that. The Twins were able to get something going in the 7th inning, though. That was after Swellenbach was pulled. Dylan Lee came in and got a huge strikeout. Then Jesse Chavez, a scoreless 6th inning. The Braves tried to push an extra inning out of Chavez in the 7th. It did not go well. Joe Jimenez came in, tried to put out that fire. He was unable to get it done. And I think, again, there's a lot of credit to be given for this Twins lineup, which is nothing short of pesky as well. And ultimately, there was kind of a butterfly effect of the 7th didn't go right, so the 8th didn't go right. And the Twins were able to push this thing into extras. Ultimately, I felt like Raisel Iglesias, did what he could do. I felt like he kind of had a bad call, and the hit that he gave up that was the tying run in this game, that was about 6 inches off the plate. Sometimes I feel like you just have to give some credit to the other side as well. But the Braves kind of worked themselves into a bit of a mess there in the 7th and 8th innings for sure.
They did. Bullpen, look, it's tough. Like I said, you haven't had starters go deep. You're trying to rest the guys. You got a big stretch of games coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know why Dylan Lee didn't get another inning. If Jesse Chavez is going to get 2 innings, that's one that was certainly questionable. And having Jesse face the top of their order, I think it's a bit questionable as well. And then I think you're spot on. Once you do that, and then you have to bring in Joe Jimenez in a situation and then try to get another inning on him, it just throws everything out of whack at that point. And Joe Jimenez, unfortunately, left the slider up, gave a hit when he came in, but then was great after that to get out of that and preserve the lead. And then, as you mentioned, unfortunate hit there off Raisel Iglesias, the ball that's a good changeup down and away, and the hitter just puts it in play and finds the right spot in the outfield. But yeah, bullpen kind of got thrown out of a line in this one.
Well, the Braves, meanwhile, were not going to allow that thing to completely come unglued or completely come unraveled on them, though late, as Raisel Iglesias was able to rally, close things out, send it to the 10th inning, where the Braves put together a 4-run 10th to claim the win. They're now 11-4 in extra innings, in case I buried the lead from earlier on. This team has just figured out ways to win. It looked like it might be a strange 10th inning with the way that it started. Jared Kelenic was the runner at second base to begin the frame. He's not a ghost. It's Jared Kelenic, live and in living color. And unfortunately, some I felt like questionable base running for him, and maybe some questionable base coaching at third. not to have him score from. If Marcell Ozuna can make it to second on a ball on the fly off the wall, the guy from second ought to be able to make it to home, was just the way I was looking at it. But as things go, Jared Kelenic did not wait very long to redeem himself. He took some, I felt like, an aggressive and necessary stance to get home. And that good base running was just the first of the 4 runs that the Braves were able to score in this one. And Ramon Laureano with a key hit in this in that 4-run inning, as well as Travis d'Arnaud. So the Braves didn't just settle for the one. They went with quantity. And as it turned out, when the Twins scored a couple in their half of the 10th, all of those runs were pretty big.
Yeah, and extra innings obviously is the way team. You want to score more than one, and if you can score, more than 2, obviously you feel like you're in a great spot. The situation there with Jared Kelenic, that ball, I understand you want to, if he does catch it, you want to make sure you tag up and get to third with 1 out. But that ball is just sitting there on the ground, and Marcell Ozuna is waving you on. You have to score on that play, and then had to take a big risk on the next one to get home. Luckily, it paid off. And then Ramon Laureano, 3 hits on the night, 4 hard hit balls. And what a huge hit that ended up being with the way things played out in the bottom of the 10th.
Yeah, I felt like it was a medium-sized risk for Kelenic because he does have the speed, and that's why I felt like he should have scored from second base for sure. And I think it kind of caught the Twins a little bit flat-footed that he did take that risk. And sometimes maybe it's better to be lucky than good. I don't know. Maybe that was the verdict on the 10th inning for the Braves. We got a lot more to get to, though, on this edition of the Braves Postcast. We'll talk more about Spencer Schwellenbach's start, some of the key moments from this one, and, of course, get you set up for the series finale as the Braves will try to go for a sweep in Minnesota, the first of the 2-city road trip that they're on, the next stop being in Philadelphia. They'll take all the momentum they can get into that series, that's for sure, and we will talk about it right here on the Braves Postcast. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and now we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook. Let's take a look at the line score and box score of this game, Jake, as the Braves make it back-to-back wins over the Minnesota Twins. And now these two clubs, each 72-60. Braves now 12 games over 500 as they continue to win series and continue their recent roll. And even if they haven't been able to score all the runs they've wanted in some of these games, that has not been the problem in Minnesota through the first couple of nights. 8 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the Braves, who left 9 men on base. 6 runs, 14 hits, no errors, and 13 runners left on base for the Minnesota Twins in this game. Duran takes the loss as he drops to 6-8 on the year. Iglesias with a blown save is now 4-1 after picking up the win in this game as well. Those are your pitchers of record. But man, again, it felt like 2 different games in this one. Like whatever happened through about the 6th inning, you felt like this was maybe just going to be one of those nice, easy wins. But Jake, I think we've learned a lot about the 2024 Braves. And one of the lessons that I would put down in the book, maybe near the top, is that nothing comes easy.
Yeah, like I said, even the game before that on Monday night, you have a huge lead in that one, and the Twins start to chip away and make you a little bit nervous later in that one. It never got completely crazy or too close, but yeah, there's nothing that comes easy with this team. They've had to work for everything. Hopefully that has them battle tested down the stretch here, playing in all these games, these close games, these extra inning games. I could do without some of them. I would have loved a nice, 4-0, 4-1 win, but I think there is something to that, to this team that we've seen a lot more here lately. They've been able to come away with these wins, whether they've been close 3-2, 2-1 victories, or it's been something like they've blown a lead, or a team's come back, or they've had to come back. So it's good to see them start to win some of these close games.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that can be said, and we'll talk more about this as they kind of gear up for that finale and, of course, look to carry this momentum over to that next 4-game set against the Phillies that awaits them on this trip. The momentum and what you can get from that, and I think the confidence that comes with knowing that, hey, we can win these kinds of games. We can rally when we need to. We can figure out, that kind of, I guess, competitive fire. I maybe like that competitive fire, especially this time of year, would seem like it would come in handy for this club. Looking up and down the Braves box score here to find the big contributors in this one. A lot of multi-hit games. Ozuna, a couple of hits, couple of runs knocked in, as we talked about. 2 more hits from Matt Olson, couple of runs scored, another one knocked in. Travis d'Arnaud had a run batted in. Michael Harris, the 2-run homer among his 2 hits. A 3-hit game for Ramon Laureano. We'll get to him a little bit more later, but his 2-run double highlighted that 4-run 10th inning and turned out to be the eventual winning runs of this game as well. So a lot of big stuff happening up and down the Braves lineup. But on the mound is Spencer Schwellenbach, 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts for him. We talked about him a little bit earlier as we got started here on the show, and you've seen him so many times, Jake. I feel like, and this is a young pitcher who is very much still, I feel like we got to temper our expectations of him getting this on-the-job training, this valuable training. He's shown the ability to make those adjustments. He's definitely shown that the moment is not too big for him, that he can attack a lineup in a number of different ways. He basically seems to be kind of wise beyond his years in a lot of ways because of the experience factor not really being something he could lean on coming into his time here, his run here in the big leagues, but not as efficient in this one. Credit some of that to the Minnesota Twins, but he was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at him and nearly had gritted his way through 5 innings before a couple of walks had him out of the game.
He did. And look, I feel like he was struggling to find something other than the fastball tonight. The splitter at times looked really good, and then at times he left it up. I thought his curveball was one of his better secondaries tonight. He obviously had the slider, the cutter as well that he was throwing. But still, I mean, just a really good start. But I think if you're a little bit more crisp, maybe you don't get all of those foul balls. And still, all the balls put in play, 82 mile per hour average exit velocity against. So they were not able to square him up with whatever he was throwing. I just thought the command wasn't quite as sharp at times with some of his pitches. Now, he had the 3 walks, but it was 1 to lead off the game, and then it was 2 at the end where he was clearly running out of gas. Threw 106 pitches in this one. Yeah. And CJ mentioned it on the broadcast. Just the second time this year he's pitched on regular rest. I think that's something that's important to remember there, as he, again, was kind of running out of gas, not necessarily with velocity. He still had the velocity there, just losing that command a little bit and seeing some of that frustration in him. Going with the 3-2 breaking pitch, there, I think that shows a lot of confidence in that pitch that he can go to it, but you got to be able to get that over for a strike, obviously, in that situation. So again, still learning, still growing. He didn't give up any runs, Grant. He struck out 8. Yeah. I mean, he still was really, really good, obviously, in this one. Plenty of swing and miss stuff, 19 whiffs in this one. So just another good start. I think you do just have to give some credit to the Twins hitters and fouling off a lot of these pitches and just battling him. And also just maybe some of those secondaries, not quite having that sharpness to him, that command rather, that we've seen from him for most of his starts.
Yeah, and look, there's going to be starts where you're just not going to have that stuff going. And I feel like among the lessons that can be learned by a young pitcher is, what do you do when you don't feel like, okay, well, I'd like to go to this pitch, but I don't really have a feel for it right now. How quickly can you make an adjustment? Do you ride on the pitch that's working really well for you? Do you try something else and then maybe come back to it after an inning or two and then see if it's there? I feel like Max Fried is a guy that makes these kind of in-game adjustments really, really well. But I feel like Spencer Schwellenbach has also found himself adding pitches to his arsenal since he became a big leaguer. So clearly there's a lot of aptitude here, and the execution has been right where it needs to be. And stop me if we're nitpicking a scoreless start by a rookie pitcher who continues to just impress. It would have been great to see him be able to get through the 5 innings, I believe. But at this point, I don't think we knew that it was going to be a 10-inning game either. Putting that aside, obviously it forced the bullpen to do a little bit more in this one. Dylan Lee did his part, a big strikeout. Jesse Chavez, a scoreless 6th inning, got pushed back out there in the 7th. The Twins mounted that 3-run rally against him and Joe Jimenez, who tried to come in and kind of get out of that. They weren't able to. I feel like that was kind of, again, a little bit of a Minnesota Twins pesky lineup that really just was able to key in on a few pitches and get some things going. And they showed that in that opener, that they're capable of, even if they get down by a significant amount of runs, and this certainly wasn't game 1's total by any means, they're going to keep coming at you. It's a very good lineup. They did it again in the 8th inning against Jimenez. I felt like Raisel Iglesias came in and could have had a strikeout right there were it not for at least one bad call. I've got to throw that in there because I think it's one of the pieces that didn't work out in that at bat. And as you talked about earlier, Jake, a changeup out away, 6 inches off the plate, was served out into left field, and that tied the game up. Unfortunately, the Braves, though, they were able to answer. They got it done against Yohan Duran in the 10th inning. It was a shaky start to that frame, but all's well that ends well in that one. And I think that just kind of underscores the fact that, this is a Braves team that does have some players that can find themselves in some moments and deliver. and you're going to have to count on different guys at different times to do it. And this kind of felt like a 10th inning where it wasn't just the usual suspects in the middle of everything.
It wasn't. It was some guys that probably weren't expecting to see in the lineup this year. But here we are. That's the 2024 season. But coming up big, I got to mention Iglesias again, though. Even after giving up the lead there in that 8th inning, comes back out for the bottom of the 9th against the middle of their order, throwing heaters in there at 99 miles per hour and puts up a 0 there to give the Braves a shot in the 10th inning. So he just continues, to do great work. But yeah, in that 10th inning, the ability to add on, and again, just that at bat from Ramon Laureano, I thought was great. Yon Duran is their closer, who is really, really good and has really, really good stuff. And the Braves just completely got after him in this game and were able to get to him. The big hit by Ozuna there, but then obviously the hit by Laureano, the double in the gap after being late on some of those fastballs, to be able to stay on that one and drive it in the gap the other way. I thought it was the hit of the game.
Yeah, no, I think it was for sure. And Laureano has been in the middle of a lot of good things for the Braves here lately. And I feel like all this playing time that he's getting is well-deserved. And it's at this point feeling like not only just riding the hot hand, but maybe this is just kind of where this guy is right now. And where he is a city and a team that's very happy to have him, considering everything they've been up against this year, as he is one of the group that I'm calling the replacements who was able to come through with a big hit in this particular game. I talked about Whit Merrifield. I don't want to harp on this too much, but 5 hits yesterday, 0 for 6 today. I don't know if I got that right earlier on, but a day that Whit Merrifield would very much like to forget. But if you put it together, he's still 5 for 11 in the series, so I'm sure he'll take that. We'll talk a little bit more about what went on in this game, kind of give our final thoughts on that. Then we're going to turn our attention to Game 3 of the series. Braves are going to go for a sweep. They've got Chris Sale heading to the mound, and we've got more to talk about here on the Braves Postcast. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Well, it has been a very eventful stop in Minnesota, Jake, as the Braves and the Twins will wrap up their series, this 3-game set on Wednesday, as they look to finish off this series with a sweep. The Braves do. Meanwhile, for the Twins, the Central has kind of gotten interesting over there between the Guardians and the Royals and the top of that division. But I feel like a lot of folks are still looking at the Twins as very much being a factor in that. And I think you can kind of see why. I know they lost these first 2 games, but this is a club that keeps coming at you, and it's a club that's going to have, I feel like, a very interesting September ahead of it, not to mention how interesting the September and really the final few days of August could be for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be. Obviously, this week is a huge one, going on a big road trip, facing a good team in the Twins. Like you said, I think they're going to be very much in that mix. They're certainly right there in at least a wild card spot, but I don't think they're done in that division either. It's a good team. It's a good lineup. You see how much they battle in these 2 games, and the pitching staff is better than what we've seen in this series. Obviously, Bailey Ober's been great lately, but kind of got ambushed on Monday night. But has been a really good pitching staff, and they have some good guys in there. So I think this Twins team is going to be a really good one. But the Braves coming in, able to get 2 on the road has obviously been great, and a chance to sweep it on Wednesday.
Yeah, Twins right now are 3 games out of first place. That's where they're going to be. The interesting thing, though, is the Kansas City Royals are trying to finish off another victory over the Guardians on Tuesday, which would tie things up at the top of that division. So a lot of things are going on this time of year. A lot of interesting baseball, important baseball left to be played, most certainly. Braves, meanwhile, have been kind of, I'm sure, looking to see what's been going on with the Phillies, who marched into Houston and won back-to-back games over the Astros, and 1 more to go before the showdown with Atlanta that will begin on Thursday at Citizens Bank Park. Meanwhile, the Mets continued their grind of a trip out in Arizona, where they're playing late on Tuesday night They lost on Monday, but this Diamondbacks club and the San Diego Padres have really, in the second half, asserted themselves at the top of the wild card race in the National League. The Diamondbacks have been playing some very good baseball over the past week or more, and really here in the second half. It's going to be fascinating to see how things go in this wild card race between what the Padres have been doing, the Diamondbacks being hot, the Mets surging over the past couple of months, and of course the Braves trying to hold on to that third wild card spot.
Yeah, the Braves got to keep winning because so do their opponents right now, and the teams that they're battling for a postseason spot. The Mets been really, really good. They were actually idle on Monday, so the Braves did pick up a half game, so that was great. But now they're absolutely destroying the Diamondbacks, so won't look like they gain ground on them tonight unless they make a Twins type comeback in this one. But either way, the Braves just got to focus obviously on what's in front of them, playing good baseball, continue to win series like we've been talking about. But yeah, the Mets are a hot team. The Phillies look like they're starting to get back to their hot ways with 2 big wins over the Astros. But the Braves themselves, winning all these series, 5th series win in a row, just keep taking care of business doing that. And I think they'll be right where they want to be.
Yeah, the Braves came into the day with a 3-game lead over the Mets for that final wild card spot. That looks like what it'll be. As you mentioned, the Mets are currently taking it to the Arizona Diamondbacks out in some late action on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's worth asking again. Can games like these first 2 kind of help build a little bit more confidence in this Braves club, a little bit more momentum as well? They've now taken 8 of their last 10, the Braves have, and I believe it's 10 out of the last 14, if I'm not mistaken, overall. But either way, as you pointed out earlier, the Braves continue to win series. That's an important thing, and one of the, if not the most important series of the season is looming to close out this road trip.
It is. That's obviously what you're looking forward to. But, in my mind, it's take care of business on Wednesday, too. You got a chance to sweep a series, something they haven't done since the middle of June, and sweep a series against a really good team with Chris Sale on the mound. I know we'll get into that, but just focus on that one first and get to Philadelphia because, like I said, they're playing really good baseball. You got a really big deficit there, but it is your last chance. If you're going to have any shot at this division, you got to have a big week. You have to win that series to give yourself a chance going into September. So again, talked about it coming in. This is the biggest week of the year in terms of the division for the Atlanta Braves. If something is going to happen, they had to have a huge week. They've gotten off to a great start with 2 wins. We'll see if they can finish it off.
Yeah, definitely would like that sweep and would love to take care of their business in this series and then move it on to Philadelphia and do that. And they will turn to, as they have many times this year, Chris Sale in a position to give the Braves a win in an important game. He has done that in opportunities for the Braves to continue some winning and to take a series. He has also done that when the Braves have had some not so good fortunes prior to that. He has quite simply been the Braves' best pitcher this year, if not the best pitcher in the National League altogether. 14-3, 2.62 ERA for Chris Sale. He'll be facing David Festa, who's 2-3 with a 5.20 for the Minnesota Twins. On paper, Jake, as I've said many times this year, where the game is clearly not played based on the script that we've been reading from, it does seem like it would favor the Braves, but you got to go out there, play all 9, and try to take that win and finish off this sweep.
Yeah, if you're looking at the pitching matchups in this series coming in, this was the one that you would have said the Braves have the best chance of winning. But this is baseball, and Chris Sale lost a game to the White Sox this year because the Braves didn't score a single run. So nothing's guaranteed, obviously, in baseball, but you feel pretty good anytime Chris Sale is on the mound that he's going to give you a chance to win. 13 straight starts now of giving up 2 earned or less. But you'd love to see this offense come back out and continue to score. 18 runs in the first 2 games of this series. Don't check me on this, but I feel like they didn't score 18 runs in the previous month worth of games. So that is great to see. And again, hopefully that continues and they do that with Chris Sale on the mound. I think you got a really good shot of sweeping the series.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make a bold prediction. If they score 9 runs early on for Chris Sale, I feel really good about their chances of winning this game. And I did before the rain delay in the opener of the series, recognized and pointed out on social media, the Braves scored more runs in that first couple of innings against Minnesota than they did in the entire 2 series prior to that. The one against the Nationals and the one against the Phillies, they scored 8 apiece in each of those series. So I think, Jake, your math may actually check out on that one. Either way, Chris Sale gunning for win number 15. It seems like he's been stuck on 14 for a while here, so maybe he can get over the hump there as well as he faces off with David Festa, the right-hander for the Twins. First pitch on Wednesday is at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments. Share the show with a friend as well. And make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, the Braves outlast the Twins in extra innings. They go for the sweep on Wednesday. We'll be back after that game to wrap up this series. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We'll catch you next time. So long, everyone.